And Arizona's side of the ball really should be pretty straightforward at this point. We know Kenyon Drake is going to start, so you play him as an RB2. We have him at running back 15 on the week. We know Kyler Murray's the QB1 because it's Seattle. And not only are they a horrible secondary in general, but they don't even have their two starting corners on top of it. So they're going to be even worse. They don't even know who their fourth starting corner is. They're trying to figure that out. Who's going to be that guy when they go to their dime packages, 6 defensive backs? Who is that going to be? They don't even know. Things are already ugly as it was. So I think they should all go without saying that, DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 1 this week. Big game last week. I know a lot of it, chunk of it, came on that crazy game-winning finish, which, can't hold on to that hoping again. But this is a guy who has one of the highest target shares in the entire NFL. And a great matchup, wide receiver 1 over everybody this week. And then after that is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, we like him a lot. I actually have him as a wide receiver 2 this week. Wide receiver 17. Other than last week, I think over the past, I want to say 5 games now, 4 of the last 5 games, he scored touchdowns. He's looked very good. He's still operating well ahead of Larry Fitzgerald as far as target share goes, snaps, routes run, all that. This is a good matchup for any perimeter wide receiver. So Christian Kirk, wide receiver 17, I would play him with some confidence this week. And even Chase Edmonds, I have his RB27. Now, the expected game script here that we're looking for is a shootout. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. We had a shootout the first time around. Both these defenses are subpar at best. That includes Arizona, even though they've been playing a little bit better recently. But this is nothing to be special about. These are offenses going for the jugular. I expect it to be aggressive from start to finish. And that's why all these guys can be fantasy relevant, including Chase Edmonds. We have an RB27. This is a guy that I think you can play as a flex option. Without a doubt. Now, as far as Seattle side goes, there's some injuries that we've been waiting for, right? It sounds like Tyler Lockett's going to play. Basing that on Pete Carroll, which I never feel good about doing. However, in his, situation here, he came out right away and said that he is confident, fully expecting Tyler Lockett to play with little doubt. I'll give him this credit. He at least came out and said that, Chris Carson, he practiced in limited. He hopes he could have him out there, but he even admitted that he just kind of got through the practice. We're not expecting to see Chris Carson. And we had just updated these rankings actually on BellyUpFantasySports.com. If you want to go ahead and check them out, they're pretty much up to date to this point. They'll be updated throughout the weekend. So we're operating as if Carson's not going to play this game, which means Carlos Hyde, practice in full, back from the hamstring issue. We do expect him to be the starting running back. We do expect him to get the majority of the work. And as a result, I have an RB25. So just sitting on the cusp between an RB2 and a high-end RB3. I think one of the big things about a Carlos Hyde in this situation is that you can play him with the confidence that he's going to get most of the receiving down work. Travis Homer's not going to play in this game. So Alex Collins, while some people are a little bit worried that he might get mixed in, he might get a few carries. He might. But I think you're going to be looking at a guy who's more there to spell a Carlos Hyde than to split the work with a Carlos Hyde. And when Hyde has given his opportunity so far this season, albeit it's been very few of them, he has been able to capitalize. He has been able to produce at a high level. And being that he's a full practice and he's good to go from his hamstring, I think he's going to be the bell cow. And Seattle knows that they have to get away from being so one-dimensional. While Russell Wilson is playing great, although we'll get into him a little bit in a second because there's been some concerns there, while the receivers have obviously been awesome, the fact that they've become so one-dimensional is the reason why they're on a little bit of a skid right now. Defenses are able to game plan a little bit more for Russell Wilson and take away some of the things that he wants to do, at least on a more consistent basis. They're going to have to get back to running the football to at least some degree. I think they do that tonight with Carlos Hyde and being able to use the backfield in the passing game as well to keep teams off balance. Now, I don't think he has this tremendously high ceiling. He's still Carlos Hyde at the end of the day, but a high floor half-point PPR leagues, especially, which is what we usually talk about on these shows when we're talking about where I have them ranked. Yeah, 100%. That's why I got him at RB25. So I feel confident about Carlos Hyde being a top-end RB3, low-end RB2 for you this week. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, obviously you're going to play them. Like I said, we're expecting Lockett to play. You can play them as low-end wide receiver ones, high-end wide receiver twos in a game that should be a shootout with the way that they've been playing as of late. Russell Wilson, still our QB2. So I don't want anybody panicking on Russell Wilson. But is it a little concerning that he suddenly turned into a turnover machine over the last 3 weeks? And if you're in fantasy leagues where those turnovers count against you, you're not benching Russell Wilson. I'm not making that argument. Not. He's still the RB2. He's still the QB2 overall. But it's a little concerning that maybe those high ceiling games, if they don't stop from being one-dimensional, teams are going to be able to key on Russell Wilson, what he's trying to do, when he's trying to push the ball down the field, get pressure on him, and frustrate him, which is what we've seen over the past 3 weeks. It's why Seattle's been faltering as of late. Now, the good news is it's not going to stop him from being aggressive. So that's good for him. It's good for the wide receivers. And frankly, it could also be good for Arizona or whoever the opponent is that given week, because now they have extra possessions. They have extra fantasy value to go to. But the turnovers is the reason why, it goes back to my Carlos Hyde point, that they have to stop being so one-dimensional. And that's why I think you're going to start to see that a little bit more. Now, am I concerned to the point where I think there's going to be, 10 less pass attempts a game? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, it might benefit the offense to be a little bit more efficient overall anyway. Because now we've seen DK Metcalf kind of get taken away from certain matchups over the past few weeks too. This is going to be a big one because last time Patrick Peterson took him away. Now, Tyler Lockett being a little bit banged up heading into this Thursday night game, I think there's a good chance that Russell Wilson's going to force the issue more so to DK Metcalf than he did the first time around. So I think you're going to be fine there. Point is, you're going to play all your fantasy guys that are relevant in this game. Should be one of the better Thursday games that we've had in a while. That's what I'm most excited about here. But I love pretty much everybody involved, including Carlos Hyde, can definitely play him with some confidence in this week. So there's not much more to go over in the Thursday night game. So let's move on to our early window of games on Sunday. Let's kick it off with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cleveland Browns. What's on the Eagles side of the ball? Can they bounce back? Can they do what they are supposed to do? I think that's the big question. Carlos Wentz comes in as QB 15 for us on the week. The reason for that is I'm expecting high volume. Whether it be in the second half or whatever the case may be, I don't expect the Eagles to have tremendous success running the football. Cleveland's defense has been very good, and they've been getting stingier and stingier to the running back over the past month. Miles Sanders, I have him as an RB2. Obviously, you're still going to play him, but I don't have a high ceiling in my range of outcomes for a Miles Sanders this week. I just don't. Which leads me to believe Carson Wentz should have more pass attempts, should be coming back from behind, I believe, in the second half. So I think the volume is going to be there. I think there's a game in which you're going to see Carson Wentz use his legs quite a bit too, and that kind of also boosts his floor. So all of that is to say that he's somebody who's in the streaming territory. Still not my top 12 quarterbacks, still not necessarily QB1, but he's in the streaming territory due to all of those factors. Now, flip it on the other side. What's going on with the wide receivers? That's the big part we got to figure out. Travis Fulgham wasn't part of the game plan, and I was worried about Travis Fulgham a little bit with Alshon Jeffrey coming back because I wasn't sure exactly what the snap count, what the rotation was going to be. But that wasn't the reason Travis Fulgham wasn't involved. He just flat out wasn't involved. It wasn't because of Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey barely played. He wasn't targeted. So that concern not only rolls with me because we still haven't really seen what that's going to be come to fruition just yet. Now we have to take in consideration, like, okay, well, what's going on with the Eagles offense in general? You guys came out of the bye and looked more out of sorts with more guys back, more guys healthy than really almost any other point this season, with the exception of week 1. And even then, and yet the offense looks more horrendous than it has at any point this season, in my opinion. Looked more out of sync than it has at any other point this season. We have Travis Fulgham ranked at wide receiver 21. I don't think Alshon Jeffrey is ready to come back yet or be, I should say, a significant participant in the route run share and the target share just quite yet. I think he's still getting back into game shape, and it might take him, really honestly, it might take him a month to do so, because talking about Liz Frank injury, he hasn't really done a lot of football activities in a long time now. I mean, we're talking about it almost a year. So I think it's going to take him a while before he's really, really ramping up his involvement in this offense. And I think they got to get back to getting Travis Fulgham the ball, especially when it comes to the red zone, especially giving him 50-50 attempts. Jalen Reagor had 7 targets, but only had 4 catches, 40 yards. Him playing as a, dink and dunk type of wide receiver is not what he's meant to do. If you're going to get Jalen Reagor to do what you need him to do, which is to be the downfield threat, to be the big playmaker, to keep the defenses honest, to keep that safety backed up, well, you need to start using him in the role that you drafted him to be, which means using Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward and getting Miles Sanders involved in the short and intermediate part of the game and getting back to that. It's not a great matchup against Cleveland, especially in Cleveland. This is a good defense. And because they got Chubb back and they're leaning on the running game again, they're able to keep the ball out of the offense's hands. So the only wide receiver I'm going to touch is Fulgham. But even then, there's a new low floor risk that really comes with playing him. So you have to take that into consideration. He's going to be matched up on Denzel Ward most of this game. That's not going to change here either. We do have a wide receiver 21. I think you can play him. I think he'll definitely get more than just 1 target. And if the Eagles are smart, but again, that's the problem with fantasy football. There's logic, and then there's what the coaching staff will do. But if the Eagles are smart, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert, that's what they should be moving forward in their passing attack with, as they presumably wind up winning that horrible division. But there's still a wide range of outcomes. They still seem determined to get Alshon Jeffrey involved as he gets more back into game shape. And that's something we're just going to have to watch moving forward. Makes the whole thing very, very ugly. Dallas Goedert, he's my tight end 7 because of talent. I believe in the talent. I believe in the targets that the Eagles show to the tight ends. I believe at the end of the day that will win out. But there's no telling here. There really isn't, unfortunately. He hasn't been targeted the way you expect him to be since he's been back from the injury. It's been a poor showing. Last week, he was splitting work with Richard Rodgers. But I have to believe in the talent. And I think you only have maybe a week or 2 more that you can play Dallas Goedert with the hope, I can't even say the confidence, but the hope that he'll be a tight end 10. Because Zach Ertz is probably 2 weeks, maybe less away from being activated. And while he wasn't great, obviously, he wasn't great, it still doesn't mean that he won't, be the guy. And he won't take away from Goddard. So I think you got 2 more weeks where you can play him as a top 10 tight end. And after that, we'll have to see. I really thought that Goddard was going to have the opportunity when he came back to really shine. And to put it on the Eagles that, you know what, you could bring Zach Ertz back. That's fine. But I'm the lead guy. I thought he was going to do that. He hasn't. And if he continues to not, they're going to have no reason not to thrust Zach Ertz back into the number 1 tight end role and make this whole thing even more murky because no one's producing well. So now you move into Cleveland. And the only thing I really want to touch out of Cleveland is the backfield. And that should go without saying, but that's it. Austin Hooper, tight end 13, but it's the most boring tight end 13 I think I could ever, think about in my entire life. Most boring tight end 13. Who knows? Baker likes to get the tight ends involved in the red zone. That's the only thing going for him. And that is the same analysis that we could probably have for the other 29 tight ends, the other 31 tight ends not named Travis Kelce in the league right now. He's not going to have a huge target share. He's not going to be featured. Jarvis Landry could lead the way in targets. Who cares? Unless the Eagles were able to get up a lot in the beginning of this game, there's simply not enough pass attempts on this team, period, to get Jarvis Landry, who needs, I believe, double-digit targets, especially because he's just not 100% healthy, needs double-digit targets to turn in a wide receiver 3 performance. We don't have him in the top 36 this week. Eagles are not the easiest team to throw the ball on, especially since Jarvis Landry most likely, maybe it's Higgins because he lines up on the perimeter more times than not, but Jarvis Landry most likely will see his fair share of Darius Slay in this game.